Hello, IT Nation. I'm here with my phenomenally responsible, reliable, great hair co-host, Dan Scott. How are you, sir?
Mr. Sean Lardo, I'm doing good. I'm doing good. So happy New Year to you. How was the break?
Was there a break? I feel like there was no break.
Well, there was on this side of the pond anyway. At least there's more of a one.
Well, we have a break, but when you have children, you don't really have a break. You just
This is true.
Keep rolling with it. But honestly, the holiday was really nice though in general. It was nice. Like 50 family members came over, which is so great to have.
Friends are welcome, relatives by appointment.
And yours. And how was yours?
It was good. Yeah, it was good. In typical fashion, I don't know whether this relates to anyone that's watching. So you push like crazy in December. You're trying to get loads of stuff done, especially if you've got a short month. And then like 24 hours after you call it a day, you put the out of office on. What happens? You get the flu. And that was me. That was me. Your body just kind of just goes, no, not having any of that.
That's back to having children though too. I swear you're always
tired. They all come home from the germ factory and yeah, bring them in the house. So yeah, look, a couple of days of feeling sorry for myself, but that was okay. It was all right.
And then there's Boxing Day.
Yeah.
What we don't have that over here. So
no, I noticed because my phone kept going off with emails. So yeah,
we don't know anything about that. Like Boxing Day, like is that where we throw away the boxes from the gifts from Christmas? Because that's how.
Now here's a one. I believe I had to look this up because again, having kids, they ask you these questions, and you're like, I know this answer. Let me just go and quickly have a look on the internet. Apparently, and if anyone knows, put it in the chat of what's going on here. Apparently, it's a Victorian tradition where people would give gifts to those who either worked for them or were doing things for them on Christmas Day and didn't have a holiday. Apparently.
Oh, so it's like the industrial. It's like how we do over here with the industrial days. So in other words, anybody who works in the industry of service, like bars, restaurants, they have their own holiday because they're usually working on the holiday. So makes sense.
Exactly. Apparently, that all it means now is we get a day off. So it's a public holiday.
Nice. I mean, at least you're not giving anything to anybody. It's like you're not buying gifts for anybody else. That's fair. That's good of you. That's really good of you. So yeah, because I didn't get a gift from you when I was working that day.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Thank you so much. So today, again, another installment of discussing a pretty big deal, IT Nation Europe coming up just in March.
Yeah, absolutely. Home straight now, isn't it? I can't wait. It's that feeling of like those 2 weeks. It's only 2 weeks over Christmas. It makes no difference. But coming back in January and you're like, right, okay, let's do it. We're on. Let's go. More of the agenda coming live soon as well. We've got another whole batch of the agenda that's going to be going up online. Really excited for that. Of course, our guest keynote.
Didn't make an update
either. I've just got to keep my mouth closed a little bit longer. It's like guest keynote's almost there. Almost. I've still got the red dots that kind of appear on me if I start talking about it, but we're almost there. So not too long. But yeah, whole another batch of content is going to be going live. Our early bird tickets are still on sale for the event, so do take advantage of that. Our hero Simon in the production gallery, Simon will at some stage during the next 20 minutes or so be putting the links up. But yeah, we've got all that going on. Yeah, it's going to be fantastic. Can't wait.
I'm excited. I'm trying to make my secret plans to get there still. So anybody watching this, I will start a GoFundMe to get Sean to IT Nation Europe.
Now you see, everyone, what we've got to think is, what do we want him to do for that GoFundMe? That's the interesting part.
That's fair. Well, let's put it this way: if we make enough funds and I get paid for my trip, and then I end up going with work, then I'll just take all that money and we'll host a party.
Game on.
Drinks on me. Drinks on GoFundMe.
Drinks on GoFundMe. I'm sure there's a rule against that somewhere.
I'm sure there is. I'm sure there is. So, all right. Well, again, we're right around the corner from us. We have a little over 2 months. So we're still looking for registrants. So whoever hasn't registered, make sure you do so. I know there's some promos out there for that as well. So take a look at it. Yep, there it is across. See that on cue, Simon. Thank you, sir. Putting the link across the bottom. Also, if you guys have anything else you need question-wise, you can always reach out to Dan or myself or anybody on the IT Nation team. We're on LinkedIn or Facebook or the Gram or God knows what else. I don't know.
The Gram.
Yeah, my daughter says it, so I figured I'd say it. It sounded cooler than me.
That was bad. That was bad.
You know, I really appreciate your positive reinforcement. Dan.
Thank you. Yeah.
So yeah, let's just move on then. Let's move on to the more important piece of the conversation then, which is the guest we have on today.
Yeah.
Now you brought him in He's your guy, so I'll let you do this.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. So everyone knows, hopefully, if not, go to the website that's on the bottom of the screen on the roller and go and check it out. We have 4 content tracks at our conference that permeate all the way through the breakout sessions. So you can plan your own adventure, choose your own adventure at IT Nation Connect Europe. MSP operational maturity, so OML, something that people are used to hearing, obviously a service leadership trademark, and forms a huge part of all of their teaching through Sleek, through their operational maturity coaching, through their benchmarking. So operational maturity and M&A, just to let people know exactly where that lives, because it's a question that we've had from prior conferences. So OML and M&A, we love an acronym, operational maturity and mergers and acquisitions. Oh, and there's
my. You get a thumbs up. Look at that. See, look, you get thumbs up on there too. Amazing.
There you go. And cybersecurity and AI is our second track. Then we've got service delivery, client success, and operations as our third. And then lastly, of course, we have sales and marketing, which brings us on to somewhere around about. There's a link in there somewhere that brings us on to today's guest.
Link. Do you want me to help with the link, how we sync this up?
It's pretty
simple. It's pretty simple. Traditionally speaking, MSPs always struggle with working in their business as opposed to on their business. One of the most vital pieces, before you can talk about M&A, or you can talk about investment, or you can talk about anything, you have to talk about growth. You've already focused on your internal operations mostly. Usually your help desk is working pretty good. And if not, then we talk about AI and all that stuff too. However, without growth, you don't have prosperity. Without any of that, then really M&A is an irrelevant conversation. It's like Bigfoot sightings and the Loch Ness Monster.
I will give you an Arlen Sorensen-ism quote. I like an Arlenism because he can sum a lot of things up very quickly. And there are very few problems that have ever been invented in an MSP that you can't sell your way out of. And just sit and think about it for a while. Sit and let a few drop in your head and just think, it's frustrating, but he's usually right.
It's so spot on.
Is the frustrating part. So yeah, that's it for me with growth. Very few problems you can't sell your way out of.
See, and now we know. So now that we got all this out of the way, this is a good topic for you and I both, because we both work in this world of sales and marketing. So today's guest should be a good conversation. I love talking about sales and marketing.
Absolutely. Absolutely. We've got a really great guy in order to bring content to the conference, for which we are very grateful for Alex sharing with the community, but also to chat with today. So who we're going to be chatting with, none other than Mr. Alex Smith from Brainbox. Alex, a very, very warm welcome. Good morning.
Hello. How are we doing? Well, warm welcomes.
I say warm welcome and morning. Do you want to just give us a bit of a heads up as to your current sort of whereabouts and temperatures?
Yeah, well, I left London yesterday at 10 o'clock, arrived in Kansas Hayes at 8 o'clock at -20. So the long johns were on and woolly hats, and it was mad. It was crazy. But good fly. It's really interesting because when you fly into Denver, it's a huge airport, big airplanes, everything else. And then you go very far away from the main terminal and you go off to your airport and your airplane. And it's this like 26-seat propeller engine. And you think it might take off. It might. And then it lands. And the airport is one terminal, and the security and the check-in in the same place, and the arrivals and the conveyor belt to get your thing on is the people that have been your stewardesses on the plane are then pushing your bags on the conveyor belt to get you off and out. It's an experience. But yeah,
and then they leave there and they get in the Uber and drive you to your hotel because they're also the Uber driver.
Well, you say that, Sean, but then they also cook me my dinner. So it's,
I was saying,
Hayes is small, man. It's a small world. It's a small town, but no, it's nice.
It's like being on a cruise ship where they all do like 7 jobs, and you see them. Like it's amazing. Yes.
Then they asked me to do the washing up, and I thought, come on now, like there's nothing.
Why are you half stepping? Get to do your work.
Yeah, don't abuse the POM. Don't do it. Anyway,
I've got a story about the small planes. A good friend of mine was flying out of San Juan. And something like Sunshine Air, I think it was anyway. It was like tiny, absolutely tiny little plane. And they had to abort the takeoff because the door wasn't shut properly at the back. So they got halfway down the runway and they thought they'd have another go, pull over and try again.
Yeah.
You can do that.
Yeah.
That's impressive.
Wow. It reminds me of, sorry, just quickly. It reminds me of Cusco. And I was in Peru going to see Machu Picchu, and the plane was very similar there. It was like kind of like door shuts, one handle down, let's go. And it was just it was like an old tin plane or whatever, the aluminium plane or whatever they were made out of. It was crazy.
I don't think it was aluminum. I don't think it's aluminum.
No, probably not.
I feel like aluminum would be a bad idea for that.
Yeah, that probably would be a bad idea.
I don't know if that like I mean, I don't know though. I'm not the metallurgy, so I don't know. However, so why are you there now? Why are you in the middle of Hayes, Kansas?
Yeah, so there's an MSP that we did some work with at the middle of last year, and then they jokingly said, or we kind of jokingly said, "Oh, let's come out in January and do a full enablement session and help you roll out a few other changes that you're doing." And I thought, oh yeah, because I'm still in the excited phase of sales training. I'm 33, and I'm still in that phase of like it hasn't worn off. 10 years in, the novelty hasn't worn off yet. So I was like, yeah, let's go. I'll travel halfway across America in January. And then anyway, so then they booked it, and they said it's either going to be about 20 degrees, your temperature, or it's going to be minus 20, your temperature. We don't know. And yeah, this is where we're at. Minus 20 in Hayes, Kansas. And now we're just
which they knew all along, by the way. They were just selling you. That was all it was.
Yeah.
Did you hear how he responded to that, though? Did you hear the denial in his voice? He was like, so, yeah, this is my life.
The novelty can only get you so far, Sean.
I know you're screwed. You'll be fine.
Yeah.
You'll be fine. Next time, suggest like summer for there. Spring, summer is a good time of year.
It was really exciting because Dan said to me, "Oh, do you want to come out and do some talking in Faro in our like end of November or mid-November or something?" And I was like, "Okay." It's like 3 degrees, pouring rain in the UK, and it's 20 degrees in Faro and sunshine. Okay, Dan, yeah, I'll come. So I'm learning to choose the opportunities.
Absolutely. So, okay, so you're doing sales and marketing coaching for the MSP. Is that what this is?
Well, the marketing stuff is actually, so go forward. I've been sales training now since 2016, I think it is, or 2014. I can't remember. 2014, I started sales training. And what I found in the sales training world is that it's all well and good trying to train either business owners how to sell or it's their teams how to sell. But if you haven't got a kind of like an influx of leads, of new opportunities, or nurturing your current business, you're never really going to grow in sales. And people blame sales for this stuff, but it starts with a brand awareness campaign. It starts with a marketing campaign to make sure, do people understand what you do, that you exist? And a lovely question is, if I Google you, what do I find? It's a really nice, such a simple way of like, if I Google Sean today, who do I find, right? It's a really nice question to start. And there's usually, sales is just a downflow from that. So what I talk about, the marketing stuff, I always give away for free because it's always, you need to be doing this, just do this as a minimum to make sure you're at least visible in the world. And then we can start worrying about what you're doing when you actually speak to someone. So marketing is completely free. Sales is actually where we charge and we implement.
Nice. Okay. So, and then as far as when you're getting into it, you talk about just doing it, just getting it done, right? Because I feel like a lot of people are very skeptical on actually, they have a failure to launch, especially MSPs. Their sales and marketing is not their bread and butter. So how do you get somebody rolling into this? How do you get somebody convinced? How do you sell them on selling? How about that?
The thing we have to think about is the fact that a lot of MSPs are process driven, and it's why they are doing what they're doing and why they are good at what they do. So we just need to break it down into simple steps of processing. So it's simply understanding 3 main questions, which is who's the person you want to help, the challenge you want to solve, and the result you want to get them. And when obviously we're going to cover this in March, so my whole talk in March is around just do this, which is going to be, how do you make sure you've got a decent product suite? How do you make sure you build an actual marketing campaign in 15 minutes or less? So actually in the room, what we're going to do is I'm going to show you the 3 steps you need to do of how do you understand the value you bring to market? How do I build a campaign? And how do I schedule this, calendar this, so it's easy? Because a lot of marketing, even AI, it's still complicated and tiresome and cumbersome to use these tools at the moment. Whereas what I do with Just Do This, it's 3 steps. I'm not going to give it away now, obviously, otherwise there's no point coming in March. But it's just 3 steps of how do you build a campaign, understand your value, and then launch. And what I do is I challenge people. If you can't do this in 15 minutes, you're doing it wrong. And everybody has 15 minutes a day to do this.
Fair.
Yeah, very fair. I mean, it's Alex. Here's one thing that I'd value your perspective on, relating to the event, but also relating to all the other work that you and I do together. Because for everybody else, for context as well, Alex is a facilitator in our IT Nation Evolve community with one of our sales peer groups. And thank you for your leadership in the community, Alex. What you've seen other industries and you've now worked inside of the MSP industry. The community is near and dear to us in the MSP industry. I think it's probably one of our industry's key strengths when you look externally and you talk to people that have come in from the outside. What's been your take and perspective on community, and more importantly, what it can do for businesses? You know, what are the outputs that you've seen from people that really engage and get involved in community?
I'm going to draw on my own personal experience, and so what I will do, actually, I'm going to go back to 2014. I was a member of the CBI, which is the Confederation of British Industry, along Cannon Street in London, and they had a suite that you could rent out, and it was co-working spaces. And I said to them one day, hey, entrepreneurship, running a business is, no one talks about the loneliness of it being 2 a.m., you trying to solve a problem, you trying to grow something, and you have no idea if you're doing the right or wrong thing. Can we introduce a mastermind where it's a prerequisite that we all run the 3 C's, which is we connect, we build community, and we contribute. So we connect to each other's cause. Where are you trying to go? We build a community of similar-minded people, but everybody has to bring something to the table. Everything. And what I found is that you put 12 strangers in a room, if they're facilitated in the right way, you will create 12 really good advocates for what to do and what not to do in your brand. And one of the biggest things, we saw this a little bit in Faro, and I'm going to build on this for IT Nation in March. When you go down the route of thinking you have competition, you'll shy away from exposing or sharing really what's going on. When you think about collaboration and community and kind of like co-elevation, when you think about let's go on this journey together, you suddenly create a really safe environment for someone to go, hey, I'm struggling and I need some help. Who's solved this before? So I hope that summarizes it. But I saw this in the CBI. We built this with 12, 15 in a mastermind initially. And I think what IT Nation Evolve has created is that same feeling, but just ramped up.
Interesting. You said the word journey, which is something I use an awful lot, and we do inside of the community and all the different events that we run. Often find interesting in your take on this, people's destinations are always different. The goal is always different because it's unique to the human being. It's unique to the entrepreneur, why they're doing it, what they got into it for, what their outcomes are, what their goals are. But the journey, broadly speaking, is very, very similar between all of us. And that's where the similarities come in. Just because one person is looking to mature a business, to grow their OML, and somebody else could be looking perhaps to exit a business because there are different levels of the curve. The journey they've got to get there, broadly speaking, will have the same opportunities and challenges. That's where the sharing comes into play.
Mm-hmm.
And that's, I do want to touch on something that you talk that relates to this that you focus on. You talk about business and culture together, because back to the whole journey conversation, the end of the journey, I've learned. I'm only in my 20s still, obviously, so I'm learning as I go. Shut up, Dan. And what I found is what I thought my ending was going to be has shifted from decade to decade of how I wanted to be, how I want to exit from whatever it's going to be, right? What's my value at the end, right? To me, some people call it their currency. So, coming back full swing though, one thing I love focus on is a good culture environment for me to be in, and relating to the business terminology, the business terms also. And I find MSP struggle with that. So what is your take on that, and how do you work within that?
So I've pivoted in two ways this year. Firstly, 70% of my work is going to be done in nature, and that's going to be. I've called it self and sales mastery, but I'm moving away from the word mastery. I think it's slightly too masculine. It almost alienates and it almost creates elitism. And I think Robert Greene has done a good job of bringing that word to the market, but I think it's overused. So I'm rethinking the naming at the moment. What I found in sales, especially, and this is internal culture. And when I say internal culture, I mean your moral compass of why you do what you do. Because for me, I got into sales and I was given the Jordan Belfort straight line persuasion way of selling, of you just say what you need to say, regardless of if it's right or wrong. And in your MSP world, let's service deal with it after, right? So say it, sell it, and then I'll let a tech level 2 deal with that in 6 weeks' time when I know we can't deliver it, and that's their problem. Whereas at 25 years old, I got a bit of a life wake-up call when I missold something to a friend's dad. And he kicked off, and word for word in the showroom, he said to me, Alex, because I'm Emily's dad, I feel like you've tried to manipulate me and control me into buying this. And I don't understand what I'm buying. And even though my intention was pure, my attitude, my focus on what I was trying to go for to this particular individual's dad was wrong. And I just went home from it and I was like, something needs to change, something needs to shift. And that's when I doubled down on kind of like self-awareness of like, okay, why do I do what I do? And why do I show up in the way that I show up? And I think it's dangerous for people with the skills that I teach to teach it to people that have not got a strong foundation of integrity, of morals, because business owners will know this, you guys will know this. Without a solid relationship where someone can actually trust what you're saying, and then you can deliver the results that you've promised, you'll never have consistent sales. And I think that's where most people go wrong, is they say what they need to say to get in the door, they overpromise, they underdeliver, and then they fail massively on expectation. And it's their fault because they've set it up in the wrong way.
Now, do you find that being a problem? In my experience, the reason why the salespeople do that, and let's just use an external salesperson comes in, not part of the group originally, not part of the family. They hired this person as a salesperson, right? I find that they misrepresent a lot of times because they themselves don't even know what the package they're offering is supposed to be consisted of, or what to say. So do you find that often when you're coaching and working with these MSPs still?
Yeah, so Brad Scow and I did an interview on this a few months ago because I asked him a really tough question to really understand. It's how much do I need to be doing in revenue before I hire someone? And that Sleek will help you with this. And it's a really strong question. And what I say, let's just take rough numbers. Anything less than probably a 1.2 a year, it needs to be you're still the face of it. And whatever advice you use for that, you need to find a way of being able to put your voice, your value to the market, and you're still the person I'm building the relationship with, which is why one of the first things we teach is around prioritization of accounts. So it's looking at what is an A account to you. So what is your ideal customer? Who do you want to bring into it? Because you've talked about culture, sure, right? Mm-hmm. If you have the wrong clients come in and they're incredibly noisy, they've come from a bigger MSP, their expectations are up here, and you're bringing them in at a slightly different level, and you can't meet their expectation, they put that onto you, that it's downhill from there. So the first thing I talk about is certain revenues. You need to have the margin before you even think about hiring. Before that, it's just appointment setters. And I would go down either the graduate or the younger route when the talent is more inexpensive and they want the opportunity. Because if at my level or an account management level, I'm gonna be demanding 85 to 100 grand salary before we've even talked about commission, which is another big point. I'm gonna go out on a whim on this, and this is gonna be the next couple of years push for me, is remove commission from salespeople, because I think it drives the wrong behavior. And I think, it's a bit of I think there's a great book called The Mission, which talks about the power of removing commission. I think you put people on good salaries, you give people good bonuses still, but you don't incentivize end of quarter, end of month goals, because it's not conducive to a fun, exciting customer journey. And what you prioritize is ROI, which is rate of impact. So how much are we impacting? How are we impacting our customers? And ironically, I'm going to talk about a referral program, which never fails. On my first opening piece is referral programs and how you build one. If I give you the opportunity to always share your thoughts on what you think of me as an MSP, I then earn the right to then ask you, well, who would you refer me to? But only once I've delivered to your expectations can I ask for that referral. I'm going to pause. There's two big mic drop moments.
I like that. I don't like the commission thing, but I'll be honest. I think that's I would never
cheese away. Who moved my cheese, man?
I would totally not. To me, if you have a good culture and your sales group, your members know that they have their own book of business, they have obtainable goals. As long as they're obtainable, when you give them far-fetched goals, that's when things start happening that shouldn't happen, right? That's when the overpromising takes place. And if you clearly outline and define what you're selling, what the service is, as long as you do those things, and a good sales leader will always make sure things are being adhered to, right? But you do have a point when it comes down to sometimes you get in that other side of the house where people just say what they need to, and then all of a sudden, and there's no ethics in that.
Is it worth caveating? At the moment, I'm not convinced AI has a place in the sales world, and I think relationship needs to double down. And I see a lot of people moving towards technology, Gong, call recordings, all of this stuff, and relying on Copilot or different mechanisms to do summaries. And I think what we are about to lose, or we are in danger of losing, is me getting to know Dan, understanding things about Dan, intricate things about this individual that builds a relationship where he goes, I actually think you get my business. When you rely on technology and you incentivize the wrong behaviors and then you amplify it with technology, you create really lazy people that are looking for the quick win.
I don't disagree, but maybe you start with identifying what type of sale you actually are, though, because I think people confuse when they see the commercials on TV and it's IBM or it's Amazon or it's something like that. That's a very transactional business. So AI makes sense because there's not that, you're not doing that relationship piece that you just mentioned, right? There's nobody, I don't call Amazon and talk to somebody. You know, I go online, I order. So AI makes sense in regards to that, right? Anything it's an automated relationship, which isn't a relationship, but we'll call it automated communication, right?
I could disagree and agree with this point because there's a coffee chain in London called Pure, and they went the opposite way to Pret. So Pret went down the subscription model, and it was really popular for a short amount of time, 5 coffees a day, blah blah blah. But what they found
is now, aren't they?
They've already backed out. Yeah. So what was interesting, and there's a really cool guy called Abid. He made me really aware of this. He said, everyone's buying it, but they've also ramped their price up by 20%. So the discount you think you're getting as a member, you're actually paying more. And I was like, okay. So the reason I share this is that Pure went the other way. And what they did is they automated a lot of their front end, but they gave you a person to talk to if anything went wrong. Whereas Pret, they just automated everything, and it was an overrun service, crap service on coffee, average coffee at best anyway. Right. And you're still waiting for a coffee. So they didn't, and all they did was create a rod for their own back because people just copied and pasted the QR code, gave it to all of their friends, and before you know it, you're losing money. Whereas Pure said, we want to make you buying your stuff as simple and as easy as possible. But if your lunch turns up and it's not 100% to your satisfaction, I'm going to give you someone on the phone within a minute. And if you watch what's going on with Pure right now across London in terms of how much busier they are, the quality of the coffee, the organic coffee, I just think that they are an example of what happens when you double down an experience to me and you move away from trying to automate, simplify, and make money.
Agree. No, I agree with that. But that goes back to my point, though. If it's identifying what your culture and your process looks like. And there's a boutique and a non-boutique. There's a high-end restaurant, and then there's McDonald's. Yeah. Right. And that's a level of expectation you have too going into it. So if you go to McDonald's, they have kiosks you order at now. There aren't even people there, and you're okay with that because it's McDonald's. You expect less than average food. You hope that the fries are hot when they get to you, right? I mean, that's about it, right? And that your burger hasn't been sitting on that heat plate for 3 hours and isn't like a rock. And if it's not like that, then you've won, and you're like, okay. But if you go to a 5-star restaurant, you expect 5-star service.
It's an interesting time to mention this because I make this point during the talk is that there's people often confuse advertising with marketing. So advertising is what you talked about earlier on. Is Amazon are selling? They've got a Friday event on, or they've got a Black Friday event on, or something like that. That is a form of advertising. Whereas marketing is this is what we stand for. This is the vision of what we do, and this is how we prove that we do it really well. So it's about understanding that your marketing is not just like if you see a pizzeria and all they do is show you a picture of a pepperoni pizza, and I only say that because that's Dan's favorite pizza, right? If all they do is show you that, then it's like, what makes you different? Whereas if they say these are where we source our ingredients from, and this is what makes us authentically Italian, then it's like, I actually wouldn't mind learning about Italian culture. I'll give you the best example. I can never pronounce it, but Dan, what's the green fizzy water? Is it
Pellegrino?
Pellegrino. Read the back of the packaging of San Pellegrino water and just learn about the story of that water. It could just be bottled in the Highlands.
But it doesn't matter.
You don't care because it's got the name of San Pellegrino and it's got the story of where it comes from in Italy. And I think that is an important point of where I think a lot of sales goes wrong is that the brand or the business doesn't understand its value and its message and its voice that well, which means it doesn't onboard its people, its teams, its customers very well, which means no one really understands really what they've bought.
Right.
And there's such a good question here, which is, what do you think you're selling versus what do you think you're buying? I think I'm talking to you about March. What I'm actually doing is building on the representation that Alex actually understands sales. And it's once you master those two questions, what do I think I'm selling? What does Sean think he's buying?
Mm-hmm.
Suddenly you'll start to understand how to create a great experience.
So you're really talking about the need to value is what you're talking about for me as the buyer, and English translation, I call it, because everybody says a lot of wrong words. A lot of MSPs talking tech, things like simple things like that. But obviously you're boiling it down to what your messaging really looks like total.
I'm going to get, we touched on this point earlier on, and then I jumped over into 3 C's. I'll talk about it again. Is that if you understand your people, the challenge you solve and the result they get, you'll move away from talking about products, because, hey, I help these people, we solve this challenge, and you get this result. Because if you need to understand sales truly, you need to understand the fact that 85% of our decisions are loss avoidance, whereas most people are talking about big, shiny new things, which sounds exciting until you realize, I've got to implement this, and I've got to use this, and I've already got 15 other logins. Whereas if I just talk to you, what's the risk you're currently facing, and what would it mean to you to reduce that risk? It's just, I think it's just a nicer conversation, because 85%, and the way I describe it is, if your arm's on fire, 9 times out of 10, you don't care what you're having for lunch. And if you do, your priorities might be in the wrong order. So that's where you need to understand loss avoidance and how to actually have conversations with the right people.
That's just getting to know your clients, though, isn't it? That's the bottom line. Is, do you really know and understand your clients? Or in your words, do you just think you do? Or are you making a load of assumptions about why they're in that relationship in the first place based on your own either what's best for you or what you think is best for them, but probably framed incorrectly? You might have exactly the same challenge in mind, but you're framing it as a technology challenge rather than phrasing it as a career challenge to somebody or as a business challenge to somebody. I think it's very easy to forget in the industry that we're in, where we understand everything as our partners, as the MSPs we understand everything about what's going on here technically, and we've got a total handle. We can see the problem coming down the tracks. We know what's there. We know what's going to happen, but you just don't seem to get it. I've been on the other end of those conversations in my career where you're desperately trying to convince somebody that, back in the day, that the SBS server with steam coming out the back of it sat in the corner of the office, it's going to blow up. And when it does, the backups with the tapes neatly stacked on top of the server probably aren't going to be of any use to you, but you just get deaf ears. You absolute deaf ears on it, or so often you did. But then looking back and looking at me there, I was talking about a technical problem. I wasn't talking about what's the impact to your business. What are the goals for your business this year? What would happen if those goals, if you didn't succeed in them? What would that mean to you as a human being? And that, you see the industry now kind of turning that corner, which I think is fascinating. I think of all the maturity I've seen throughout our industry in the past about 15 years, I think that side of it, that element of it, of moving from being sort of technology providers and maintainers into being consultants to a business, really, in many ways, isn't it? It's just that it so happens that we own the area of technology, but really you value our voice in the boardroom more than anything else. It just so happens that the area of expertise that we take away and own is that of the tech. That to me is fascinating, and it's where the genuine value in the industry is really, really coming from. Alex, what I'm interested in knowing from you is you get the privilege, as do Sean and I, of speaking to lots and lots of businesses and getting under the hood and working with lots of businesses. What's one thing when we're looking at MSP growth? Let's go for one thing on each side of the net, if you will. Like, what's a commonality when you get in there, in the back of your mind, kind of the alarm bells are going off within a couple of minutes of the conversation starting, of show us a trait that you find that people who are perhaps struggling in the area of growth commonly get wrong. And then also on the flip side of that, looking at opportunity, what's something that people are getting right who you think, yeah, this is really all dialed in here and you're doing this, which is what I see in so many different areas.
I'm going to go back to what I said earlier on. I've got a really exciting waiting list built up of people that want to join me and doing outdoor retreats, and doing 70% of my coaching is going outdoors because of the self-awareness thing. There's 2 things I see people are getting wrong. They ignore their personal development and growth, and they think the business is them and therefore that it's all encompassed in one, but they forget the fact that there's a heart beating at the end of each phone and at the end of each day that needs to be taken care of first. And without going into therapy or philosophical debate, I think if you get over the imposter syndromes and the fears of what you think people might say if you start putting your voice out there, or you start videoing and putting your voice out, going to market, I think that's one of the most crucial things to get right, is once you understand the power of your voice and your story and your narrative and why you do what you do, and you share that message and how you support others, it's an incredible confidence boost. The second thing I see is that very few people go near the questions of, what are you personally looking to gain out of me working with you? Most people just try and sell a new EDR or SentinelOne or some new security or Microsoft 365 licenses. And like, I think Sean said it, you're talking about things I don't understand. So just like put it in layman's terms for me. They go and try and sell. And what they do not do is like, hey, Sean, regardless of the outcome of this, what are you looking to gain out of us aligning to each other? And when's that gone wrong before? Because what most people don't do in sales is, how have you tried to fix this before? And how did you get made to look bad? Or how did you get made to look good? Because remember, sales, and this is the whole hero mentality stuff. Most salespeople have this hero complex of, I need to come in and save the day. Whereas actually what you need to do is create an environment where I feel safe, that I can share to you as a guide, and you're going to make me look good to who I need to look good to. So the 3 questions I think we all need to get right is, what is my value? Who needs that value? And who do they need to look good to? And if you can solve those 3 questions, and they're tough, this is hours of inquiry and journaling and talking and hashing this out. But if you understand, well, this is my go-to market, these are the people that need it, and they want to look good in this way, I don't think you can ever lose. Very tough to do. Simple, but it's very tough to do. So it's 2 things: self-confidence, and they're trying to sell something to someone when they haven't even aligned to them.
So I love that. But I'll go to, when we talk about self-confidence, I find it a struggle point for a lot of business owners to even have confidence in their offering and how they say it anyway. They may have confidence that they can deliver, but they don't even know how to say what they're delivering. Like, so messaging is very much a challenge for them. And they, for some reason, think if they say they're really good as an IT partner, they put themselves on the line for something that, even though they already have anyway, as far as I'm concerned. But they always struggle with that message, that the nucleus of the messaging, the foundations of their business.
Give you an example there. My wife worked with a coach. My wife's self-employed, and she worked with a coach. And one of the exercises that the coach got her to do in the very, very early days of her business, and it sounds like most advice, it sounds a bit daft when you talk about it this way, but then you stop and you look at it and you think about it and you think how many people get it wrong, or how many people struggle with it but don't want to admit it. And she said, right, stand in front of the mirror for about 15 minutes a day, and you're going to talk as if you were talking to a client, and you're going to tell them what your day rate is. And because you're going to get asked the question, everyone will get asked the question, how much? It's going to come. And when it does, you need to be able to deliver that in the correct way, because if not, you'll fumble it, because the nerves will kick in. You'll talk yourself out of it. I'm really sorry, but it's one of those things. But it's going to be it's going to be unclear. It's going to be waffled. It's going to be you're going to apologize. You're going to talk yourself out of it. You're going to reduce it on the spot because you feel guilty. But then just don't think about yourself. If you're listening to this and you're the leader or an owner of a business, what happens when your team members are asked what something's going to cost? A project day, a day of coming in outside of a support agreement. How do they answer that question? Something as simple as communicating the value of what you do. But I loved it. I thought it was a brilliant exercise. It was absolutely brilliant, because if you've just, Sean, to pick up your point, if you've not got confidence and belief in yourself and your own offerings and your own ability to deliver, then you're never going to expect anybody else to buy into it ever.
I don't think it's a delivery thing. I think it's just the confidence in how they say it. Back to the practice, because a lot of MSP owners that I'm friends with are great at customer success. They're great at the technology. They're great at help desk. That stuff is all covered. It's just a matter of, if you ask them what they do, for instance, they never can explain what they do. They really can't. They don't know how to say, why work on computers for businesses. That's really essentially what you're doing, right? I mean, you can get into much more, but if you're looking for a quick 10-second thing of what you do, I'm the IT partner for small to medium-sized businesses. They outsource me. I make sure they run. You can say that, and you can get away with that. People understand that. But instead, they get into, we have network engineering, we have help desk support, and they start using things that nobody even understands about. So at some point.
Here's the good one, Alex. What's confused the life out of you about what people have told you coming into the industry? what things have you had when people talk about who they are, what they do, how they do it, why they do it, where afterwards you've thought to yourself, I've not got a clue what you're on about?
To me, I think people think pitching, by the way, is the end goal. Right. And I think that's really, really wrong. When you say what you do and how you do it, what you're looking for is buying signals the entire time. This is why. So just to quickly explain, when I built the sales process for Amazon Web Services across Europe, from BDR to account manager, the first thing we did was remove the word close from any vocabulary, and everything just got moved towards progression or next step or part of the journey. For the simple reason that I think if I pitch, you say, yes, we start, and then it's just done. Whereas really what it needs to be is a continuation of building on the relationship of what, this is why I said earlier on, very few people strategically align to their customer, but regardless of the level that person's at, whether it's a 1-person MSP or a 5,000 person MSP, right? I don't think there are 5,000 person MSPs, but I'm just saying big ones, right? But the point I'm trying to make is when you're pitching, it's not the end goal of something. It's not to close something. It's, hey, we do this, and this is how we help you, and this is what the next steps look like. Because actually, people think sales is, you say you want something, we buy something, and then we go. That's part of the sale. The next step then begins of, let me run you through why we charge and the way we do it and how the onboarding works to make sure that this actually aligns with what you think you're going to get. Because most people are selling something thinking it's transactional, thinking it's like a car battery or it's a phone, whereas a service. Therefore, it needs to be a continued conversation. And the confusion, go back to your question, Dan, if someone masters the 3 questions of who you help, how you help them, and the result they get, that there is your pitch. And that is a sentence, by the way. I'll give you an example. Let me quickly give you Brainbox as one. No, let me merge the 2 together. So it'll be, we help technology business owners grow by 23% quarter over quarter for the first 2 years of engagement. That there, I've told you, Brainbox, my company, or Andrew's company, we help you grow by at least 23% quarter over quarter for the first 2 years of engagement. So you're going to grow at 96% a year. And it leads you to a couple of questions. Well, how do you help me consistently grow by 23% quarter over quarter? It's a lot of growth. Why 2 years? There's inquiry there. There's questions there. It's not just, hey, do you want to buy some sales training? I'm really good. I've worked at Amazon. Who cares? Like, who cares? Tell me what you actually do for me. And I'll share this in March, but it's called the 4 C's of how you give clarity, connection, confidence, and cause around pitching. Yeah. I hope that answers your question. Does that answer your question? I think that answers your question.
It does. And I'm glad I wear my pitching shirt too for pitches.
Pitches get what?
They get riches.
Oh yeah. Very cool.
Yes.
Very cool.
So yeah, I agree with you. I think that the pitch is a means to an end, right? It's part of the process. It's depending on where you are in a conversation with somebody comes up, right? I think the most important thing about a pitch is you've been able to boil down your messaging enough to get to a pitch so that you can give a common standard response for everybody in your company to know what you do in general. It is not, it's not the way you start a conversation, unless somebody just says, well, if you're working a booth, they say, well, what do you do, right? Then you have to have your pitch. But that's situational, right? But if somebody's calling you or wants to talk to you about business, you don't have to pitch them because they already know what you do. That's why they're on the phone with you.
Sean, it's such a good point. I'm going to share a saying which I love, which a guy called Joe Ward gave this to me years ago. He said, if I say it, it's sold. If you say it, it's gold. And what this essentially means is that most people are trying to convince someone of something. But okay, you've both got kids, right? You've got 2, Dan. I don't know, Sean, how many you've got? 4. You try and convince them to eat their dinner. What do? They dig their heels in, right? I ain't not eating this. I want this. Give me more chips. Give me whatever. I don't want to eat that. I don't want to eat it. Whereas if you incentivize them and you get them to think about, well, if you eat that, then you can have dessert and you can do this and you can do that and you can do this. I'm not saying treat your customers like children. All I'm saying is when you're trying to convince someone of anything, you're already losing because it's not like if this conversation today was just you ask me questions, I answer, then it's like there's no real value in it. It's just Alex spilling off something like a recorded podcast, whereas it's actually conversational. It's does this guy actually can do what they can do? Can he actually do? And sales is no different. It's like, can you actually do this? Let's just have a conversation. Let's just actually converse around this. And what I would also say is the best thing you can teach yourself is buying signals. And this is body language 101. This is like emotional awareness. This is like, I say something, does that person lean into it? And do they open up and do they share? Or do they come back with a generic, yeah, we're kind of like that. And it's mastering the art of knowing how to find those signals, to dig when it's right times to dig, when it's good times to back out, when it's good times to explore. It's mastering that, and it's knowing when to find the signals, how to find them. Yeah.
I'll share your quote from a great mentor of mine, Trevor Davis. Trevor, if you're listening, thank you as always. And it was we've been out to a client review meeting together, I think. If I remember right, it's quite a few years ago. And I said, come on then, give it to me. And he said, Dan, when you hit oil, stop drilling. And so as always, you sit and think, and you're like, I got you. I've got you. And that was it. That was the sole sum of the feedback at the time, was when you hit oil, stop drilling.
Absolutely. And it's spot on. Yeah. You
still
know,
remember.
The only other line I can think of is buyers are liars. That's what I learned early on. And I was like, I didn't get what that meant. Buyers are liars. So if I get on the phone with you today and you're like, yeah, I want this, without me doing it, without any kind of effort being discussed in a conversation of any sort, you're not buying anything. You're lying to me. You're just saying you're buying. So you go phone. That's basically what it is, right? And I didn't get that until I got older. I was like, buyers are liars.
Yeah. So in the self-development world, we call it future faking. It's when someone promises too much too soon and it sounds too good to be true, essentially. And it's used a lot in the relationship sense, because a lot of people will promise you the earth. And this is why I teach salespeople under promise and then just deliver. And this is why the whole first call, this is why I'm really excited for May, because I'm going to give everyone the structure of how you run a first time appointment. I'm going to give you the questions, the framework and everything of like what to say and how to run them, because most people go into a first time appointment and they say everything they think they need to say to get the sale. Whereas what they don't do is understand, well, what have you tried to do to solve this so far? And how's it made you look bad? That's all you've really got to uncover. And one of the best questions I've ever asked, well, actually, let's go back to how you find out your perfect customer. The one question to ask yourself is look at your top 5 accounts and look at the key person within that account, be that the other owner or a CTO or whoever, and ask yourself one question: how do I help this person look good this year? And if you can't answer that question, if you don't know what you are personally doing to help that individual look good, you don't know your customer well enough. And I think that's just the most crucial stuff I've ever taught, is like, I don't go anywhere near product training. I leave that to Andrew Plunkett and all the other sales trainers for Connect Wires and everybody else, right? All I teach reps is how to have a phenomenal first call. And I don't teach them anything around products, because I don't buy products. I buy the outcome that they give me. Yeah.
Fair. I like that. I think that's and I'll ask one other question here. Something that I hear often, I'm sure we've all heard it often, is, and I think this is very applicable to us having this conversation, considering where we're all from. The people in my area are different than the people in your area. I have to say different things to them. I have to give them different things. How many times have you heard that being said? Because I've heard it so many times. Like, I'm an MSP over in New Mexico. They're just different than the people in the UK.
I think there's some truth to it. My one is I get told a lot, oh, MSPs are different to internal IT. And I hear this all the time. Every internal IT rep says to me, Alex, you can't train me like you train the MSP guys. And I'm like, do you converse with the same people in the same way? Are they all just people with different job titles at the end of the day? Their struggles are different. Yeah, that's true. But is sales 101 the same? Like how you sell to people, how you build relationship, is it different from Jack to Sally to Sarah to Ray? It's the same stuff. I would say there's nuances. There's cultural differences, like the prep I've done to come out to Kansas, to come out to Hayes, understanding certain nuances about local mentality, local norms. I've had to learn a lot around what to do, what to say, how to address, how to talk about myself out here. It's had to change certain nuances around that. If I go, I did some work in Africa. You go over to Africa, it's in New Zealand as well. There's huge nuances that you need to be aware of. So give an example, Maori people, which is, we would call them Maori, but they're called Māori if you go to New Zealand. They like to cook for you and sing with you and bless the food before you eat with them, for example. So if you're going to go for a traditional Māori breakfast, right, which sounds weird to say Māori breakfast, but it is, that's how you pronounce it. They want to sing with you, they want to dance, they want to embrace and bless the food before you eat with them. I think it's important to understand that just because you're good at something doesn't mean someone's going to listen to it unless you understand them first.
I like that, and I love that aspect of it. I think you have two choices, right? Like you said, you either have to be completely prepared and in the know of what the culture consists of, or you can walk in and be hey, I'm here to learn. So tell me, I've never been here before. And you can win it that way too, because again, some people, I found a lot of people like to help other people if just asked, more than people realize. So, I mean, if I come over to London, I'll be lost and I'll ask dumb questions and you guys will make fun of me, but you'll help me. Right. And I'll laugh with you and you'll still make fun of me and you'll still help me. And I'll become one of your group just because it's non-intrusive, you know?
I tell you, Connie, the Evolve facilitator, taught me this, really helped me hone this down 2 years ago, but it's something I've been working on for a few years. The wonderful thing about being an Evolve facilitator is you realize you don't have to fix people's problems, which is really weird for me because obviously I run the sales group. And I go into it and I'm listening to these people talk. And in the back of my head, I'm like, I can solve that. I know how I could build you that process right now. We could solve that. And sometimes we do. Sometimes I'll say to the room, hey, do you mind if I just take 15 minutes here? And do you mind if I just input? Because I can help you with that. But Connie taught me that 9 times out of 10, you have to get someone to come up with the problem themselves. They have to they have to have the epiphany. They have to have the realization. If I say it's sold, if you say it's gold, and tell someone really embodies it, and so someone says, I get it, that's what I've got to, you'll never do anything, which is why sales is so fun, because sales is not about actually taking orders and signing on the dotted line. Sales is helping people have loads of mini epiphanies along the way. It's really, really fun when you do it right.
It's like being a therapist.
Why do you think I'm moving to? Yeah, it's why I'm moving to self and sales mastery, why I'm going outdoors, because the minute you reconnect to yourself and your power and your story, only then can you truly show up. And that's not philosophical. That is just truth. If you think about the whole salient point, the way through this interview, 52 minutes of talking, only when you understand your value and how to communicate that value will you actually sell anything. But most people, they think their value is building websites, or they think their value is resetting passwords or setting laptops up. That's not your value. Your value is the headache you take out of someone not knowing how to do this. Your value is being at the end of a phone. Your value is the reassurance that they finally found someone that actually gives, I can't swear because this is live, but they care about their business and them.
Have you met me?
Yeah, well, anyway, so so cool.
No, I appreciate that. I think it's I love that I love that you stress the value. You mentioned solving tickets. That's an activity. That's all. That's an activity to your job, right? That's not the value. The value is, like you said, that removing the headache, being self-assured that the business is running, that you got it covered. It's kind of like we said, don't talk about your children, but the reality is it's a level of parenting in a way. They have an assurance that you got their back, taking care of these things. You can have that comfort level. So I like that. It's just about being able to properly convey that message is the problem.
I don't know about you two, but also like I have my niche. I have one of the things I coach around. I have this story around standing in New Zealand, and I was watching some dogs round up sheep, and I thought the sheep are being really good sheep, right? They're not trying to be dogs. They're not trying to round the dogs up. They're just grazing and they're growing wool and they're being sheep. And I used to do the bar noise, but I can't bar anymore, so I'm not going to try that. And then the dogs are rounding up the sheep. I
feel like you just shortchanged us. I would
rather. Yeah. Anyway, the dogs are rounding up the sheep, right? And I stood there and I was like, they're not trying to be anything else. They're not trying to. The dogs aren't trying to be sheep. The sheep aren't trying to be dogs, right? And it got me thinking, why don't we just find in life where we naturally excel and just do that? Instead of trying to be this, what school will teach you, education in the Western world anyway will teach you, you need to be a well-rounded individual. I think that's a load of kaput. I think, why not just find out where you're really, really good and then just get consciously incompetent at it? I don't know. I'm really good with first-time appointments on sales calls. I'm not very good. I don't do the training around. I can do it. I can run medic sessions. I can do loads around it. It's what we're running in the Haze. But I'm really good at first-time appointments. I'm gonna double down on that, and I'm just gonna do that for the next few years. And I've written a book on it. Right? Selfish plug here. The Phenomenal Guide's coming out in a couple of months' time. Shameless plug. But I wrote a book on how to run a phenomenal first-time appointment, because I think just get really good at something and then share that with the world.
I think it's an important piece.
I got excited.
I think that's important. So, well, we're at the top of the hour. I mean, we can keep talking, honestly. Dan and I never have a shortage of talking.
Just true.
Just so true. Even if it's about nothing important ever, which is mostly nothing important. So after the shameless plug you just gave, when's that come out now, this book?
I'm doing the infographics for it. I'm filming the course for it. So it's going to be probably actually, ironically, I'm going to try and have it ready for March. And I'm going to try and give out a couple of free copies on the day and all that stuff, or at least subscribe to it, because it's cool. It's really cool.
That is cool. All right. Anything else we should know? Any other
about news? The shameless plug? No.
Yeah. Anything else around that, or any other shameless plug?
No. Just hopefully this has been helpful. Is there any final questions? Anything else you need from me? Is there anything else you need? You bled me dry, Sean. You bled me.
Oh, I could go on and on with this too. No, I look for, I'm hoping to make it out there, and if I do, I want to definitely check out your session. I think it's important. I think I appreciate your position on everything with it, minus the no commission thing. We'll talk about that later. That's a debate for another day. But no, I don't disagree with anything you really said. I'm glad that you attack it the way you do. And I like how you compartmentalized it. But I think the problem is people walk into it and they see this. It's basically like you got to go pack for vacation. You, your wife, and in my case, the 4 kids, and there's shit everywhere. I did swear. And you got to figure out how to pack it and clean. It becomes overwhelming. You don't know where to start. And I think that's something I see often. So I totally appreciate you compartmentalizing it for them.
I think in this day and age right now, we were talking about AI before we jumped on here and the power of editing tools and things like that. Sales is, as I said, a down trickle from leads and marketing. And I think there's a really fun question to ask yourself, which is the 3 questions again, which is who do you help? What's the challenge you solve and the results you get? The answer of that question, just film a video on that. Those 3 things. Like it's a simple, like you just put your phone here. I've got a little ring light. Get something like this, little ring light, so you've got good lighting, and just do 3 videos. These are the people I help. These are the challenges I solve. These are the results you get, and just start building the muscle around.
I love that.
Actually, yeah, it's so simple.
I do love that.
Not easy. It's really tough, but anyway, 58 minutes.
If it was easy, you wouldn't have a job. So.
Yeah, I know. I'm waiting for the day when AI just comes and does this for everyone. And I'd say I will mention this. I'll probably get in trouble for this bit, but I will say this. So have I got 2 more minutes? Are we okay?
Go on then.
Go.
Thank you. When I was working at Amazon, I was there for 2 years, and we had a new global sales director come in, and he said to us in front of the entire enablement team, "I'm going to try and replace every salesperson with a button." And I thought, well, that puts enablement out of the job, because you don't need to train buttons how to be a button. That's a coding question. And I immediately thought, I need to become a voice of a face, of a person of influence for experience, because I think I'm genuinely worried that eventually the local coffee shops will all go to iPads on the front door as you walk in. The waiters will be faceless, just people delivering food, and the experience will go. And I think a lot of people are going to look up from their phones soon. They're going to look up from the screens, and they're going to crave connection. They're going to crave someone to understand them. And I think sales is going to be a very small piece of that need. They're going to crave someone to go, "Hey, Sean, I've got no idea where you're at, but I'm going to try and find out today. How you doing?" And I think that is it's an important message. Anyway, mic drop. Thank you for the time. I appreciate you both. Hopefully this doesn't get me cancelled.
No. Dan, any last words from you, man?
Yeah, just to say huge thank you, Alex. Our job for the conference, the most valuable thing people will ever invest with us is their time. And our job is to make sure that when everybody leaves on the Wednesday or on the Thursday morning when everyone's heading out of London, that they've got a notebook packed with things and they've got those actionable points, the golden nuggets, whatever people want to call it, that are going to help them change their lives and their businesses. And, the content that you bring, the go-giver attitude that you have to help people, that's exactly what we're all about. And a huge, huge thank you from me for taking part, for sharing your time, your talent, your treasure, your knowledge, everything with the community. For those that have never met Alex before, as you can probably tell from the last hour that we've been on, he's not exactly someone who holds back. And if you need help, Alex will always go out of his way to help. So huge thank you. Can't wait for the session, and yeah, very, very excited to introduce you to this section of the IT Nation community. You're already a facilitator and Evolve, but this will be a new your audience for you. So very, very excited for everybody to be able to meet you.
I think it's important just to say, Sean, lovely to meet you for the first time. But Dan, you gave me this opportunity in June last year, and my life and career has gone from leaps and bounds ever since. So I just wanted to say to you, man, thank you for opening the door to Evolve, and thank you for letting me step through and be a face in the community. And to all of you listening, I appreciate your time. God bless you all, and thank you for this. Thank you for this opportunity, man.
No, thank you, my friend.
He's like closing us out better than we can. He's like doing way better.
I'm matching your energy. I'm just the mirror.
Yeah, you're doing really well with this. I mean, I'm just gonna shut my video off and you just. No, okay. So we'll wrap now. Anybody looking at the bottom of the screen, you see we're still doing early bird passes. Make sure you take advantage of that while you can. You can go right to this link right here below. It is also in the show notes anyway too, so it's in the comments. So you'll have it in the comments. Take advantage while you can. This way you can come hang out with Alex, Dan, and possibly me right after I get my GoFundMe page up and go and see what happens. Otherwise, Alex, yeah, thank you, dude. Good job today. It was great. And pleasure meeting you. Dan, I always love you, so it doesn't really matter. It's like Whitney Houston says it, I'll always love you. And IT Nation, thank you for listening to us talk nonsense, and then Alex being smart, but thank you for coping and dealing with me and Dan. Other than that, we'll see you all soon. January 21st, next episode.
See you on the next one, everyone. Take care.